Welcome to Citizen Concerned, where we remind you to beware of the comrades. I'm Katlego. If you enjoy our content, please subscribe to the channel and share the video with other citizens. Skills are leaving South Africa, the real thing we actually need. I don't understand why these Pan-Africanist fake intellectuals that like communism don't go to communist North Korea or Cuba. China is not a great destination for them because it has become capitalist. Obviously, the Chinese and the Russians have abandoned the struggle for the working class.
Foxconn has long been a key part of Apple's success story. Terry Gou, its founder, got close to Tim Cook in the 1990s when he was still working at another PC company. When Cook joined Apple as COO in 1998, he used that relationship to pivot Apple's manufacturing to China. Apple's hallmark aesthetic and quality largely due to Gou's ability to meet Cook and Steve Jobs' notoriously stringent demands. He built out iPhone City in Zhengzhou and later iPad City in Chengdu. But now Apple's close partner finds itself in political hot water. Terry Gou is making a bid for the Taiwanese presidency. And in August, the billionaire made bold comments in defiance of Beijing, claiming the communist government wouldn't dare touch Foxconn because of its global customers.
The Chinese and the Russians have been bought by the interests of white monopoly capital.
In the late 1990s, Apple was on the brink of going under, struggling against Microsoft and IBM.
Well, Apple was about 90 days away from going bankrupt back then, in the early days.
China was central to its turnaround. The country had a huge low-wage workforce with manufacturing skills not found in the U.S.
You could take every tool and die maker in the United States and probably put them in the room they were currently sitting in. In China, you would have to have multiple football fields.
At the same time, China itself was investing heavily in infrastructure and tech to promote economic growth. It poured billions into constructing Apple campuses out of nothing, paving roads, building houses, even entire airports. That scale, talent, and infrastructure has made it impossible for Apple to replicate that supply chain anywhere else. More than 95% of iPhones, AirPods, Macs, and iPads are now made in China. And Apple gets about a fifth of its sales from the country. $74 billion in 2022, easily the most of any American company in China.
That's why Apple phones are made there, giving jobs to thousands of Chinese people. That's why there are many millionaires in China. It's because they are traitors to the revolution. They are exploiting the working class. The best place for these intellectuals of ours is Cuba, where the government distributes bread to the people. You know, because the government is in charge of the means of production. The bread may be poor quality, but at least, all of us eat the same bread throughout the country, whether you're a doctor or a nurse, a teacher or a gardener. You spent years learning to be a doctor so that you can eat the same kind of bread as a person who did not try to be anything in their life. Lazy people, hardworking people, incompetent people, competent people, it's all the same. We're all eating the same rubbish bread. This is good for these intellectuals because that means the inequality gap is finally closed in those countries. It actually means that there is no inequality, right? It means North Korea and Cuba have the most equal societies on earth, right? Wrong. The presidents live like kings. They have several bodyguards. They drive around in fancy foreign cars, and so do their relatives. While you eat the national bread, he will definitely have a personal chef. He will live in a big house and claim to be just like you. He will claim to have the same as you do, even though you can clearly see that we are not the same. The president, the ministers, and their relatives are the ones that get power. And if you ever consider being a politician, you have to suck up to them or be a friend or a family member. It's similar to what we see here in South Africa, a Zuma family problem. These rich kids of the corrupt Jacob Zuma are always talking rubbish when they live lavish lifestyles.
When you are flying on a plane, window or aisle?
Window. Who would pick an aisle?
Well, if you have to go to the bathroom, you don't have to crawl across people to go. That's the idea.
I don't go fly in those kind of planes. Real hot girl shit.
This bitch hates me and somehow they link up and they become friends. Like how? Bitch, pipe down.
They have no specific value in the country except being politicians because that is all they can offer. The Zumas are attempting to create a dynasty right under our noses.
With any big name, I'm sure we're all expecting a Blue Ivy to do something like Beyonce and Jay-Z, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And within our family, like there's a lot of us, and a lot of my siblings are in politics and have an interest in it, you know?
Okay.
But for me, it's just...
I like that you said there's a lot of us.
Yeah, there really is.
While they earn millions, the Zumas, EFF, COSATU, MK Party, and many woke radicals want you to hate businesses, hate capitalists. But they never tell you that they want you to live depending on the government for everything you need to eat. In Cuba, you're given the supplies booklet. Without it, you don't get food. You get the booklets and go join a queue to receive some flour. You join a queue to receive some sugar. That's if the sugar and flour are even available.
La libreta tiene los 12 meses del año, ¿ves? El azúcar blanca, que son 3 libras por persona. Las pastas alimenticias, el café, son fósforos. No tiene jabón de baño porque ya no dan jabón de baño por la libreta, eso era antes de.
Al principio de la revolución trabajaba en comercio, y después fui pasando en el año 63 y después fueron recortando poco a poco hasta los días de hoy que casi ya no dan nada.
Fue con la revolución, no fue antes del triunfo de la revolución, no fue con la revolución.
All you need is one of these, a ration booklet. It gets you
arroz, frijoles, lo que están ahí.
And it's all incredibly cheap. Sugar's a penny a pound, oil's less than 2 cents. Salt is practically free. In fact, the entire distribution costs about $1.20. That's 40 times cheaper than the open market. Though it's bring your own bag if you don't want to pay for one of his. Cigarettes were just taken off the distribution list, along with certain hygiene products, like toothpaste. Cubans now have to pay 2 days' wages for a brand name bar of soap, and almost as much for the local kind. Unfortunately, the distribution only provides about half your necessary daily calories, and each year they cut it back even more. The meat distribution across the street used to include fish, chicken, sausage, and sometimes eggs. Nowadays, if they have anything at all, it's blended soybean paste. Once they sell out, they just lock their doors until next month.
Dream that is mostly associated with the so-called developed nations. Cuba has got a GDP ratio which is far much lesser in terms of per capita as compared to many countries that have got such developmental indicators. But Cuba is the most developed nation in terms of the impact on human life. And because that is a socialist victory and a socialist achievement, that is what we want to be in South Africa.
Comrades, this is my comrade Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea, the young man who terrifies the world, the young man that cannot be touched by Donald Trump. No one can touch this young man, Woo Jong-un. And he came and said to me, I must have this thing so that we are all together.
To the Republic of South Africa, with great respect and uphold.
So go there, communists. Go live in Cuba or North Korea. You'll fit right in. Go experience the beautiful achievements of communism. Why don't you? Look at Cuba and North Korea. They are realizing their mistakes, so slowly, bit by bit, they start to legalize free markets. They're starting to legalize capitalism. They are starting to do exactly what Russia and China did. They are slowly accepting capitalism. Meanwhile, in Africa, we have politicians and woke people trying to turn us into the things that other people have tried and suffered through. Certain South African politicians are trying to commit mistakes that others are correcting. Working class this, monopoly capital that, inequality this, inequality that. Confidently talking rubbish instead of going to live in the land which you aspire our country to become. Go live in the communist countries. Why is it that people that are leaving South Africa are not the communist-loving comrades in high positions? Why don't they decide to leave since capitalism is so bad here? Why don't they leave for communist countries since communism is so great? Social justice warriors in parliament, universities, unions everywhere are talking against businesses. They speak ill of businesses. If you have a business in South Africa, you are the enemy. They want you to be hated by your employees, the people you give work to. Those are the ones that must hate you because you are so greedy. You're selfish for starting the company with money you budgeted, money you saved, money you borrowed. You worked several months, sometimes years, without taking a salary, without taking a bonus. You and your family toiled and worked your backs off, and finally you're making a decent profit. Someone comes to tell you how you should pay 100,000 rand to your workers. Why do you deserve 100,000 rand if your workers are earning 15,000 rand? You're greedy and you're exploiting the workers. You sit in meetings in the office all day. You're driving around doing nothing. In your office doing nothing, just working on your computer. We're the ones making you all the money. We're the real brains behind the organization. The working class is the one that should be earning 100,000 rand, not you, the owner. Not you. Not you, the one that sold your house to start a business. Not you who spent many sleepless nights to get skills in order to be somebody. The worker is the real hero of the story. That's the message of these social justice warriors, is it not? They influence policies that have nothing to do with creating jobs for the working class they claim to represent. They talk about the struggle. They talk about the gains of independence. Oh, the gains. Progressive this, progressive that.
We don't believe there's a space for a political party that is anti-transformation, a political party that thinks it's normal to burn the South African flag, to form part of any government of national unity. The Democratic Alliance, over a period of time, has stood firmly against transformation, firmly against the black majority, the working class and the poor. They don't want affirmative action. They are strongly opposed to the transformation that this country needs to redress and ensure that we take our people out of poverty and that we reach our national democratic society.
No, if the ANC shifts right-wing, for instance, on the basis of its relationship with a class party like the DA, which is purely a bourgeois party, so to speak, or a part of bourgeois interest, even if when it plays in the political space, it will mobilize every other person, but primarily its ideology of business. Not even just a petty business, which sometimes has confused majority of black business in this country. It's a corporationist party. It represents the interest of monopoly capital.
Towards the worker, the working class, and defend the hard-won gains, rights of workers, and accelerate the transformation agenda.
What are these gains they speak of? BEE? I mean, honestly, what have they gained? What have we gained? I'm struggling here. Can somebody help me, please? What gains do they speak of? Instead of ensuring that more and more people are getting jobs and working in more companies, what do we have? People leaving South Africa. Of the 2,400 special skills students surveyed in universities across South Africa, 90% wish to leave the country and they know they can do it. Why? Because they have the skills and they will be appreciated more in a proper capitalist country. They'll be rewarded for their efforts, for their sacrifices. We are not talking about these people with philosophy, legal or political qualifications here. No offense to you guys, but we're talking critical skills. There's a reason why critical skills are called critical. If we had all the skills needed to run a first world country in South Africa, that would be something, right? Imagine if we ran out of people with philosophy degrees in South Africa. Our country would still be fine. If we ran out of political science degrees, the country would still be fine. But get rid of doctors and see what happens. Get rid of structural engineers and see what happens. Get rid of plumbers and see what happens. And you as South Africans keep voting for people who are pushing skills and businesses out.
According to the South African Revenue Service, the country's dollar millionaires contributed 12.5 billion rand to the 2023-24 tax revenue collection. SARS also says it approved 13.6 billion rand for international transfers in the past financial year.
These communists like the EFF, SACP and COSATU talk about communist ideals, and those ideals push out businesses. There are no jobs in South Africa. There are too many crimes in South Africa. The infrastructures and services are getting bad in South Africa. And guess what? The critical skills are leaving South Africa. And where do they go? Best believe that they're not running to Cuba or North Korea. No, they go to the UK or New Zealand, America or Australia. Isn't that interesting? What does this tell us normal South Africans? That if you want high-paying jobs, you go to the capitalist countries of the world. Simple. What I still don't understand is why is it that the critical skills are the ones leaving? Why are these communists with political sciences and philosophy not the ones going out and going to stay in Cuba or North Korea? And as time keeps moving, it keeps happening. It's been happening for a while and it's continuing to happen. We have too many unemployed doctors, and yet we have communities with no doctors in South Africa. Doctors have been leaving. The communists who claim to represent the poor and the working class are not making this a priority because they have medical aid. So as your poor community suffers without a doctor, they couldn't care less. When you sit unemployed with your qualification as a doctor, they couldn't care less. Don't just listen to them shout about how they care about the poor, the working class, their gains and their progress. Look at their actions, for actions speak louder than words. There are many experts leaving and many businesses that could be employing South Africans are leaving. And yet the politicians in South Africa are telling you that the businesses are the problem. Fact is, many of us will try to be business people at one point or another in our lifetime, but not all of us will succeed, but we will try. Why punish those of us who have succeeded instead of rewarding them with recognition? Why? Guys, associations such as SACP, COSATU and other trade unions, as well as political parties like the EFF, ANC and MK Party have been and will continue to be the problem. Think about Elon Musk. Do you think he would have achieved the things that he has if he was still in South Africa? Let's just be real. Let's be real here. The guy was born here and he grew up here. But would he have achieved what he has if he was still here in South Africa? Would he? Innovators, business owners are leaving South Africa. Why? Because of poor policies, crime, corruption, and poor governance. These are important people in our communities. Call them capitalists, it doesn't matter. They are still important to our communities. The crimes of a few capitalists do not mean that capitalism is bad. Evil people exist in everything. The communists say that they hate the bourgeoisie, but they are the number one bourgeoisie, trying to trick us into thinking that they are simple by wearing overalls. But what's the price of your accessories? Oh, please, man, we are not dumb kids. Stop treating us like we are. They say they hate the bourgeoisie and encourage you to do the same. Well, I want to be a bourgeoisie. I want my kids to go to fancy schools. I want to drive a fancy car and earn well. But the problem is the communist bourgeoisie are telling us that the bourgeoisie is a bad thing when they themselves are bourgeoisie who earned their fancy bourgeoisie lifestyle from telling us that the bourgeoisie are bad. Imagine being told that earning good salaries is a bad thing. People like the EFF, ANC, MK parties, as well as these trade union leaders are actual fools. Who doesn't want to be a bourgeoisie? Look at how they live their lives. Are they not the bourgeoisie? Why do you allow these people to play with your lives, South Africa? When cars cause serious accidents on roads, you don't start saying cars are bad. There are even supercars, and yet even those are not inherently bad. It's the few people who abuse those cars that are bad. And the same applies to capitalism. If they don't want to accept this fact, they should leave and go to communist North Korea and Cuba and leave us to make the most of capitalism and give ourselves and our loved ones a chance to experience bourgeoisie lifestyles. What do you say? Thank you so much for watching. Please share the video, like, and subscribe to the channel. I'm Katlego. This is Citizen Concerned. And until next time, beware of the comrades.